What's up, y'all? This your girl, Rebel Ray, and I'm your hostess with the mostest. And today, I would like to introduce a very good friend, Miniya Joy. Let's
Hi.
go.
Hi, how are you?
Hey. So, Miniya Joy joins us and is one of the hosts for We Flow Radio.
Yes, I am.
So, tell us about We Flow Radio.
We Flow Radio is a youth journalism project based in Stockton, California. It is a sub project of the larger nonprofit With Our Words.
Come on.
I'm sure you're aware of With Our Words.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, our
And-
entire thing is just wanting to inspire youth to get, I guess you could say we're trying to get them into journalism, but more importantly, we want them to give news, be it local or even national, from the youth perspective, because it hits different when it comes from somebody that's closer to you in age, if that makes sense.
Interesting. I think a lot of the perception as we mature gets tainted as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think with a youthful eye and like how you all see the world, I think a lot of times you're often honest about how you see the world. It's not as rehearsed.
Honestly, I think that we're more honest about how we see the world. Now, granted, some people might see it as, oh, well, you're a young person and you're telling me about this. That's disrespectful. You don't know what you're talking about. 9 times out of 10, we wind up knowing more. And if we don't know more, at least we don't beat around the bush with it. If that makes sense.
I think a lot of times too, we often feel like with the whole ageism, we age children and youth, and as much as they tell the truth and they often tell exactly what we should be saying at times, we still don't listen. We tend not to listen.
No, not at all. I think that a lot of times, because there's a teen in someone's age, like I think our youngest person is 15 on staff. When you have a teen in your age, any wisdom that you might have on the subject automatically over their heads. You know what I mean?
Right.
And even if you're in your 20s, it's a little better, but it's almost worse at a different level. It's like, oh, well, you just turned 20. You just got here. You just started living.
They often do that. I think growing up here in Stockton, I ran into that a lot. When I shared my gifts or even when I shared my vision of what we saw as youth, a lot of times it was shot down. We were told, oh, go sit in the back. You don't matter.
Oh, my Lord. I remember dealing with that growing up.
Right.
I really do.
Right.
Now, given my upbringing in a weird way, it's like words were always a thing in my household. Like I read the dictionary for fun as a kid. I was a strange little child.
That's not even strange. I think we need to debunk that. Because they told us that growing up, and I did the same thing. I wanted to always expand my vocabulary and have like connectedness when I ran into people. And I would be in a corner with a thesaurus. I liked different synonyms.
I liked to read
anonyms for different words.
Yeah,
right?
I went through the same thing, but then in a weird way, I paid the price for it because my early childhood, I went to a private school. I went to am I allowed to say the name of the private school?
Yeah.
I went to Maryhill School at Brookside growing up.
Okay.
Predominantly white school.
Okay.
Very privileged. Okay. So me, young Black child, knowing all the words that I know, it wouldn't so much be it's like, oh, wow, you know all these words. It was, do you really know all these words? It was that extra little layer of, do you really know what you're talking about?
The microaggression is real, especially when you're a child of an ethnic race, especially a Black kid. And that oftentimes like happens. It's crazy. Like I got it growing up. And then sometimes I would make up words and I would just look, I was one of those that was like a provocateur. So I would just set it there and then I'll look at you. Did you catch it? I was one of those.
I love that. I didn't get to that point until I was in my late teens. I was very much, there's the fight, flight, fawn, or freeze.
Right.
I was very much the fawn, freeze, and flight.
Gotcha.
It wasn't until my later teens and now in my early 20s where I'm like, no, I can fight. We can do this. Whereas, do you know what that word means? Like, yes, I'll use it in a sentence, a song even. I'm a terribly snarky person, but it has its benefits.
I love it. I love also that you have your own swag. And so we're going to give a shout out to your mother because, Your mom is swagged out with her own snarkiness.
Listen,
but it comes with intellect. A lot of people don't get that. There's a lot of intellect when it comes to sarcasm.
No, it does. We make the joke that whenever we go places, you know that Key and Peele sketch of Obama and Luther?
Right.
She's Obama and I'm Luther. Where she'll say it, but then I'll say the subtext like, no, she meant to say like, you're dumb. You were really not that smart. And that's okay.
I saw another stand-up comic use a little white girl. She was blonde. And it was like, translate for me. Like he would speak hood and then the little white girl would translate.
Oh my gosh.
But I think it's that it comes across with communication. I think when we talk about with our words, we flow radio. It's actually flowing dialogue to the point where you got to come to the conversation a bit mature, right? Have that intellectual maturity, that emotional maturity to be able to talk about the issues that are that plaguing our, our community or what we're dealing with.
Right. I absolutely agree. There's a level of research that has to go into it, because even with our words, the Youth Poetry Collective, whenever we're doing poems for an event talking about this issue, we do have to do tons and tons of research to make sure, okay, if we're going to use statistics, use it correctly.
I love that.
But then we have to put our own spin on it.
Oh goodness, you're fact checking.
Oh, absolutely.
Did you see that about Trump when he had some issues about them fact checking what he was saying at his debate versus what Kamala was saying? Yeah. I say fact check everybody.
Oh, I absolutely agree in fact checking everybody.
I mean, people tend to switch up last minute, so, but I like that you guys have research.
Yeah. Well, because the other thing is what I recognize in Stockton, we're kind of a news desert at times.
Oh yeah.
And we also live in the age of clickbait.
Oh yeah.
Where the more absurd the headline, whether it's true or not, you're going to get attention.
Exactly.
So you have to double, even triple check that.
You got to check it. And that's why one of the reasons why I started the podcast, because I'm like, we need to uplift the change makers. We're constantly talking about the homelessness. We're constantly talking about the degradation of the city and the robbing. I said, what about the change makers that are on the ground? How do we talk about emotional maturity? How do we talk about the growth of the soul and the emotional development of the person? Right? That's the prune tree. And when I think about We Flow Radio, I think we're flowing with that dialogue and that conversation.
Oh, completely.
It takes a person who's intellectual like yourself, like your mother, and like your colleagues to be able to go back and forth. And because you're young people, it makes it even more special.
Oh, absolutely. Oh my gosh, you're making me think of, I think, one of the scariest interviews I think we had to do. It happened, I think this was still during the pandemic. We went up to Lodi because there is this group called Progressive Unity. They're kind of like social justice. They're about some of the protests. They're really about making change in Lodi.
Okay.
I think they are on Instagram at progressive.unity.
Nice.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I will double check that later, but I digress. They were having a protest for something, and it was rumored that the Proud Boys were going to come down.
Oh, goodness.
So we're thinking, oh boy, we don't know how this is going to go. Our director, our boss, basically sent two of us, myself and Gio.
Okay.
Her exact words were, you guys are the only ones I trust to handle this. I'm like, okay. So we go there, and I've seen how they operate. I'm thinking, oh boy, they're going to come really loud. They're going to come really militant. And my immediate response, I'm no longer in the flight, fawn, or freeze.
Okay.
My reaction is, if you're going to get this close to me, one of two things is going to happen. We're going to have words, or I'm going to have to back you off.
Listen.
They did come with volume. Like, they came yelling at us like, oh my gosh, you guys are fake news and you're not going to report us accurately and yada, 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 yada.
Oh, I think the camera is rolling, honey. The recording is rolling. You're recording yourself.
Absolutely. And I think the funniest part was this man that was like 5'4" and like full pseudo military regalia comes up to me, trying to intimidate me. And I'm like, I'm 6 feet, 6'2" in these platform sneakers, but okay, sure, that you're cute.
Yeah.
It didn't take until after 2 hours of them yelling at us that we were actually able to have a conversation. Now, granted, I disagree with them entirely. I really don't agree with what they stand for. But even in the midst of that, we did manage to find some common ground. Like, one thing we agreed on, everyone should be able to vote. Everybody should know how to, everybody should be registered to vote. Now, me personally, I kind of think of voting as like, I don't care which way you go, but look at voting as you're ensuring your right to complain.
There it is.
If you didn't do anything to try to change it,
you didn't do
you don't have the right to talk.
If you guys saw or heard that big old diesel noise, it's probably another type of rocket or something rolling through here. They use Weber Avenue and San Juan King Street to roll the rockets through the port. If you just did see that, did you guys just see that? Went to the window. Yeah, so they're gearing up for whatever military exercise that they're doing. But yeah, they actually use our port to do that, and they ship these big old massive rockets where everybody is asleep between 8 and 11 p.m. So I'm usually here working, so that's what our backstage crew just saw, and that's what you heard on the background, which is amazing. So there's a lot of things that are going on that's heavy on the hearts of our young people.
Oh yeah.
And with our words and new We Flow Radio tend to capture those things. They tend to elevate those things, right?
Yeah, that's our main goal.
So I think, I want to give a shout out to Reinvent South Stockton Coalition, our partners, sponsors, as well as our collaborators, and We Flow Radio being one of our partners and collaborators. Maintain that podcast, y'all. Come on, let's go.
Listen, I loved it. It was fun.
You all handled it, understood the assignment, went around, captured exactly what was on the minds of the people attending there. And I think as a hostess, and just align myself to step into the ED role and run around that fairgrounds while we were presenting that block party and the mixer for public land use and also parks activation. You guys handled it. One of the most memorable interviews that I saw was about a young man who came on. I believe he was a musician, and he talked about how he was raised and came to Stockton. And I remember in 1958, he went back that far.
Oh my goodness.
Right? Before this highway was built, the Highway 4, they called it Highway 50.
Really?
That was the connector between 99 and I-5, right?
Okay.
But he remembered when they started bulldozing all the houses down in Little Manila District. Yeah. So you guys actually captured that. That was big, but he was originally from South Side. I mean, there are people still out there that are telling the story. And I think as Gen Z, that's important. That's important for you all to know.
Oh, absolutely. I think that a lot of people don't always know the history of Stockton, because a lot of us came, I'm going to speak from like the perspective of those of us that were born 2000.
Right.
We came into this during, I would say, for lack of a better term, the decline. Like, I remember the bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm.
I remember seeing all the murals that used to be downtown that were slowly being painted over, or the buildings that they were painted on being destroyed. Like, I remember seeing a lot of the art kind of go away.
So that light, the light that we once saw, the light how we tell our stories, the narrative, I think podcasting, radio, any type of art form that lifts up the voice, that highlights the voice of the people need to be seen. We're constantly being, heard, and our mayor said that in one of the interviews that was interviewed by your host.
Kat, yeah.
Kat. So shout out to Kat. I think Kat really handled herself. How old is Kat?
Kat is 18.
18. Kat handled a very inclusive but exclusive interview with that mayor.
Oh yeah.
And we the mayor of Stockton, he is now running for governor. No, not the governor, congressional seat.
Yep.
And so, I mean, it seemed like she hit it hard with where the youth wanted, what do we want for violence. I think that we need to pay attention to the youth voice.
Oh, absolutely. Especially in times like this. But I think, let me rephrase this actually. I don't think it's that we don't pay attention. It's just that we're not consistent. I think that a lot of times it's during election seasons or whenever something is coming up that we suddenly decide to tune in. But then once it's done, people don't care anymore.
Well, how do we keep that momentum? Because I really think it's apathy, inflation, taxes, and everything else that stress you out.
I mean, yeah, but also stay consistent. Like, if you're going to say you're going to listen, actually listen. If you're going to ask where we are, make the spaces for us to come in and hear us out.
Woo! but when you say us, you talking about the youth?
Yeah.
Well,
all the youth, the college kids, the high school kids, the middle school kids, the LGBTQ kids, the trans kids, all of us. And be ready to hear us in our unedited form. Because I think a lot of times, in my experience growing up, I think a lot of times people get uncomfortable with swearing.
Yeah.
You know, growing up, one thing I heard was like, okay, swearing is the absence of something intelligent to say. And to a certain extent, I can understand where you're coming from.
Right.
And I also understand, okay, yes, there are other words, but me personally, it's like, I know 7 other words that can replace motherfucker. But if I want to call you a motherfucker, that's what I'm going to do.
You're going to be called that.
I'm not going to hold back. I'm not going to beat around the bush because, I mean, if I'm going to call spade a spade, well, here we are.
Oh, Miniya Joy, give it to me. Listen. And I think too, you know, you remind me a lot of my younger self because, you know, I was a firecracker. It's so funny because shout out to Mayfair Management and her team. Moses Velasco caught our superintendent, board of supervisors. I'm sorry, he caught it on film and called me a bully. on the recording. I absolutely adore Paul Canova though. Like the way he goes back and forth, but it was our board member of the coalition, Patricia Miller, who is a master gardener and worked here for many years, worked into our community, lived here for many years, said, hey, no, RC is not a bully. She's passionate. And I think the stigmatization of like our size, our blackness.
Oh my goodness, yes. Let's talk about that part. Oh my Lord, you're really just giving me flashbacks.
Well, I played ball growing up, and I play street ball.
Oh, okay.
And when I went to college, I was called a bully for how I formed and played street ball. But like, look at I grew up watching Grandmama and Barkley and, you know, all of those ballers. So, you know, of course,
you are a product of your environment.
Exactly. And some of the most famous ballers came out of Stockton. You know what I'm saying? Nico Velasco. You got a bunch of people. I'm just running off at the mouth right now. But we were balling. Tolliver, you know what I'm saying? Now Tolliver, he ain't really crossing people like that, but he was crossing that. Right. And one was like the thing. I know like vintage street ball now, but and one was like the thing growing up for the millennials. So, you know, it's like, yeah, I take that swag and that drive, the way I used to play ball, into corporate office, into how I see a problem, how I pursue a solution, because I'm a ball player, right? It's still a little tomboy in me.
I respect it.
You know, it may come off as a bully, but I think being real poised and be able to articulate yourself, I think we need to hear more about what's coming out of our mouth versus what you sometimes perceive.
No, I absolutely agree. You know, growing up, I recognized very quickly, I'm going to be taller than a lot of people. Like I was tallest person in my class.
And you're absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Like I'm 6 feet now. It was predicted long ago. I'm like, okay, well, nothing I can do to change that.
Right.
But what I also recognize is that a lot of times when you are taller as a woman, you automatically get seen as quote unquote less feminine.
Right.
And now me personally, I don't always identify as feminine. Like I am genderqueer.
Yeah.
So where it's like sometimes I'm masculine, sometimes I'm feminine, sometimes I'm as neutral as a mannequin, and that's okay.
That's cool.
But all of this to say, a lot of times, even if I'm making a point, it is going to come off as aggressive. Because I also recognize I speak with I'm going to get a little nerdy here. I speak with a very thick vocal fold. My voice teacher, I'm a music major at Delta College, but he talks to me a lot about vocal fold body coverage. A lot of times, because your vocal folds go like this, right? It's two things vibrating against each other.
Right.
When you want to sound direct, very thick.
Yes.
When you want to sound a little more delicate, it's stiff.
We're in that falsetto too.
Then you go into that breathy.
Right.
I don't speak on a breathy fold. I speak on a thick fold.
I don't.
So
I don't either. So a lot. Okay, so that's what it is.
It's a thick vocal fold.
A lot of people are like, "Ooh, RC, you're a little aggressive there." I'm like, nah, that's just how I talk. You know, it's all love, peace, blessings. Like, If I really wanted to punch you out, you'd be on the floor right now. We'll just be rolling in the air.
You would know when I'm talking. You would know when I'm coming at you.
But I give all my problems to Creator now. I can't when you got a mortgage and kids and you're like, I don't got bail money to be bailing. No. I got to make great decisions in my life. Right. And it's crazy because people will poke at you. They want you to invoke that character. And let me tell you, you push enough, like everyone has that character. I don't care if you're like, oh, she stepped out of character. No, everyone has that character when you invoke it. Yeah. It is up to you to sustain the emotional intelligence to understand what that person is trying to do. Yeah. And convey to them that that's not going to work over here. Right. I am in control.
Or the other thing is recognizing that moment and also like, okay, I'm not going to let you get away with it, but you're not going to get it the way you think you're going to get it.
There it is. Right. So I know, I think a lot of people lead with their unhealed trauma at times. And, they show up in that way. Yeah. I often project. I'm still working on that. Like if I feel flustered or frustrated, a lot of people don't know, but I'm ADHD. So a lot of times I'm juggling 1,001 things in my head and I'm wearing it on my face. And then people are like, is she mad at me? I'm like, oh, I was just thinking about my 1,001 thing.
Honestly, this past year, I've been suspecting that I'm a combination autism ADHD. Right. Because I remember growing up a lot. Mm-hmm. I'm absolutely neurodivergent. But growing up a lot, people would think that my neutral face was like mad. I'm like, I'm really just paying attention. I do have resting bitch face. And I'm like, I don't mean it.
I do too.
It just happens. Where it's like, I promise I don't hate you. I'm just paying attention.
Me too.
And I remember getting called out in class for that. I had a substitute teacher once go, you need to fix your attitude. Right. And that day I was like, I'm sorry, what? And she goes, you need to fix your attitude.
Let's go into that. That's the euphemisms that I often teach about in racial integrity and also understanding how euphemisms play a large role in microaggression and white microaggression. And you see it with white fragility, aka the Karens. And so, I've taught my children not to use the Karen word, but actually in the moment, teach it. I have taught my children that, like, okay, what are you feeling in the moment when a teacher says, oh, bless your heart, go and sit down, right? While they go and ask a question, these are things that we do to our children and we deny their ability to just flow with creativity, to show up as themselves. Yeah. To identify whatever sexuality that they're identifying with. You have all of this amount of pressure of social norms that really impede that sometimes.
I also think that something else that we do, why we don't always hear from the youth so often and so freely, is you are censored the moment you walk into the room.
There it is.
Like, this is going to be something a bit elementary, but I remember growing up, a lot of my friends and I would experience, you get upset at something, an adult would immediately go like, you need to fix your face before I give you something to cry about. And I'm like, you just gave me something to cry about. I'm reacting to it. And now you're mad at me for reacting to it. Make it make sense. Ooh. Hold on now. There's a disconnect here.
Listen, say it again. That or, I want you to have a seat and not say anything. And every time you see a seat, I want you to have a seat. Like
that part where it's like you want, and I see that a lot where people are asking, oh, well, where are youth? Why aren't they speaking up? Why aren't they speaking out? I'm like, because you tell us to sit down the minute we walk into a room. What do you mean?
Instead of pulling you all to the fold.
Yeah. And it's always the people that want to talk about what's wrong with us. And I'm like, we're telling you what's wrong with us and what we need, but you still aren't listening because you want us to sit down.
So really just activating that active listening.
Yes, it is engagement. It's active listening.
I also tell people it's acknowledgement as well.
Yeah, it is acknowledgement. And sometimes adults don't like to acknowledge the fact that, okay, you did something wrong. I think it's very difficult for adults, especially, to apologize when they've upset a child or even their child. They don't want to admit, okay, I did something wrong. There's something that I did that affected you. It is always our fault somehow. And oftentimes I think that we get encouraged to make it our fault so then they can feel better. And I'm like, well, no, I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask to be brought here. This is on you. I'm just here.
I think there's accountability on both social parts. And every time you have a relationship, and understanding the pressures that are on our parents to show up, be emotionally supportive of themselves, be good humans, advocate for themselves, and really show how and model how to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
We don't usually pass that knowledge on.
No.
We see the struggle, but what goes on in this house, it stays in his house. It's swept up underneath the rug, and we're really not talking about those issues. So what do young people do? They go and talk to
their friends.
There it is.
Or they even go to social media,
right?
Because somebody else will listen.
Right.
And unfortunately, we then see the backlash of that. Like, well, why didn't you tell me? It's like, I did try to tell you. You didn't listen.
Youth suicide went up almost 49% in COVID. And what we were finding out too about Gen Z, and maybe you could confirm this, was identity. What is my identity? It was a lot of a failed social structure that was broken. And so you didn't really, those years of trying to find your identity in COVID left a real big gap in emotional development.
Oh, absolutely.
That we saw in every age spectrum of the age in school age children, also in college. But it also affected their literacy rates and also affected their ability to engage, right? So where you would learn how to deal with conflict in kindergarten and in first grade when COVID hit, you were now like 2-3 grades behind on that social emotional development tip. And so when I was working and doing direct service, those were the issues that we were working with. I dealt with neurodivergent children. I love them to death. And I'm very good with autistic children. I understand the social, cues that they don't pick up. I don't sometimes because I'm so hyper focused sometimes.
Yeah.
But I had to go back to my behavioral modification and behavioral analysis ABA days. I was over 20 years ago. I practiced that with our youth in schools. I had to go back to some of those teachings with just our general children because they were having such a hard time with picking up social cues. Can you talk to me about like the gap that you saw, coming back out of COVID? You were graduating, right?
I had already graduated high school when COVID hit. I was in college. I still am in college. But I remember when that hit, having to do so many of my important classes online. And I remember being told, well, you need these if you want to graduate. And I'm like, how can I do this by myself? There are some things. Now, me personally, there are some classes I absolutely know I can handle online because I'm pretty sure this is the ADHD. I can get through a week's work in a day.
Yeah.
And be like, all right, I'm done.
I'm the same way.
But then there are some classes where I'm like, I need somebody to be here to show me what this looks like. I can't just be left to figure out if I'm doing this right or if I'm not doing this right. And coming back, something else I noticed, it was learning how to just interact with people again.
There it is, that social interaction.
Yeah.
So what was like some of the deficits you were seeing? Because I want to know, because I'm going in these rooms and people are asking me like, RC, that's what they call me in the work world. And, I'm Rubber Ray here on the prune tree. But, it's like, a lot of people are like, what is going on with our kids? They're shooting up. They're on their TMI on social media. What is going on? And the millennials are just like flabbergasted because we were drinking out of water hose, running around behind ice cream trucks, playing dodgeball. We had happy days, right?
Yeah.
Being outside. So,
also remember a lot of you guys at times had safer neighborhoods. It was safer for you to be outside. Like I hear that conversation a lot. Like, well, why aren't they playing outside? Because if we go outside, we might get shot. Like, I think school shootings, I'm going to pull something else in here. I think seeing the amount of violence in the streets going up is very much, okay, I don't want to be outside. I might die.
Oh my God.
Like, I think that is a very real fear for a lot of people.
Oh, bless our babies.
And also another thing is, this is something I hear about Stockton all the time. There's nothing to do. It's getting better, but I think
that where
the light, for example.
Yeah, the light. Thank God, Maddie, amen. Shout out
Maddie
to
Amen, Dante
Dante.
Milano. Yeah.
Dante
The
Milano.
light is very much, I think we're seeing the arts starting to come back online, and we're starting to see these open
Okay,
mic
but
nights
the
more.
politics need to ensure that. The
Agreed.
funding need to ensure that. And I'm not going to stop from saying that. I told the mayor and all the city council when one of our beloved students got stabbed in the
remember
park.
that.
I went to that town forum and I quoted an old African proverb. And that old African proverb was simply this: if you do not embrace the children of the village, they will burn the village down to feel its warmth.
Yeah.
And that resonates in so many different ways.
Oh, it does.
If we do not pay tithes, if we do not pay increase or pour into our children and make space for their innovation, for their creativity, then this is the idle time that they play with. This is the emotions and the frustration that they tend to see. And I look at Instagram, I talk to some of the young people that I deal with, when it comes to like engaging in therapy and a mentorship.
Oh, absolutely.
And they live these fantasy worlds behind all of these Instagram pages that they create. I mean, I remember one girl, she had like 5 Instagram pages. She was Lawana, Kelly on one. They all had different profile pictures and different family members. And she was just having conversations I said, where is your identity? It's important. Yeah. I know I feel like I'm on a tangent right now.
No, it's okay. I'm with you. But let me see if I'm understanding what you're saying. You're asking like, where do young people feel like their identity is?
Right. Like, where do you find it nowadays? It's so hard.
I think it's a combination of a few things. I think social media actually does play a huge part in it.
Mm-hmm.
I know that we talk about like social media is really bad, but also social media is a really helpful tool.
Okay.
Like when people are wanting to explore different aesthetics, like that is something, like I'm on TikTok a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I personally use TikTok and I'm like, okay, I want to see, what does an alternative aesthetic look like? What does that look like on a Black girl? I think it's finding people that look like you, that have your facial structure, your body type, wanting to see how you are reflected. Because I think a lot of times when you don't see it in the quote unquote real world, you're going to look for it online. And when you find it online, it's like, oh, wow, that's actually really comforting.
But why are we not finding it in the real world again? It felt like the elders, like your mom is my elder. So, I watched her for many, many, many moons and many, many years. And I watched her, how she gave back, how she showed up in all of her wisdom, how she shared the words that were on her mind, how she would download those sacred words and share them with us and heal her community with her words. Being the former Stockton poet laureate, I always try to uplift her because we don't uplift our elders. We used to bring homage to our elders because they were the wisdom keepers.
Yeah. I don't think it's that we're not uplifting our elders. It's just that we're also remembering that, yes, you are an elder, but you have also done harm.
Hold on. Are we ready to go there? Come on, Miniya Joy. All right, I'm ready. I'm listening.
I'm gonna be really honest with you. I absolutely agree that we need to respect our elders and we need to uplift them. But at the same time, just because you are up there in age does not dismiss you from some of the things you may have done in your past. I think that we forget that. Like, I'm gonna go a little bit in my background. I was raised Baptist in my early years. Then I went non-denominational Christian. One thing I always remember is honor thy mother and father. They would hammer that into us all the time. But then there was the Bible verse that said, fathers, do not provoke your sons.
Yes, it did.
It's like, yes, I need to respect you, but that does not give you the right to talk to me any kind of way or do any kind of thing to me. So I don't think it's that we don't respect our elders. It's just we're not going to tolerate being talked to any kind of way as well.
I see y'all rising up too.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the violence that's happening in the streets. When we do not embrace our children. I'm going to say that one more time.
Yeah, when we do not embrace our children.
They will burn this mother.
Listen.
I tell people, make space for the children. See them And then a lot of times too, I'm knowing that
and listen. Like one thing I noticed, I'm going to talk LGBTQ for a minute. I think a lot of times for the older generation, that was very much in the closet thing. The concept of being out of the closet and being your authentic self is still very much eliciting a clutching pearls reaction, like, oh my gosh, you're out and you're talking about it. It's strange, but also they're not trying to adapt or understand either.
Well, the social systems that they grew up in will not allow for it.
Right. It is very much a moment where you witness, okay, you are a product of your time. But you're also
the
not
shaming. So let's talk about that. The shaming that I feel Gen Z has inherited.
Yeah.
But y'all take it to a whole nother level. Like, how do you dedicate a whole like Instagram page to just like shaming someone? Like, where did that trend come from? That it's like forever in internet space.
Like the cyberbullying,
right? It's real.
Cyberbullying is wild. I can't even pinpoint where I think it started. I think I remember hearing about it. I can only speak from my own experience. That it kind of started around, I want to say 2011, 2012. That was about when I was leaving elementary school, going to middle school. I remember seeing cyberbullying start to become thing, and trending. Then it just ramped up.
A lot of young kids lost their life because of it, you know,
because once it's out there and it spreads like wildfire, and then it's like there's nothing you can do. You don't know who sees it.
I mean, during we wrote it on the back of the bathroom stall.
We still see some of that.
That was probably as much as or you'll get it in a note, and then they'll pass notes around the school or something like that. I remember my boy, shout out Mario. I had a little crush on him. I remember Mario Powell. He played basketball, and he shamed me with a rap one time.
Whoa!
I tell this story because it's funny. It's part of my childhood. But we were in high school, and he didn't know I was crushing on him. And he shamed me with a rap. He was, we in senior hallway, and you know how you bebopping and you hit the rap like. He hit it. So I went home. I cried.
Oh no!
I cried. I was one of those girls that did not lose her virginity. I did not like date guys. I wasn't allowed to. Okay. I wasn't allowed to in high school. All I could do was basketball, church, and we worked at the funeral home. I remember that.
Oh my God. I wasn't allowed to date in high school.
Right. Like, no.
But also, I was the girl that people would ask out as like a joke just to get the reaction.
Right.
Like, I remember to this day, there was a guy that asked me to prom as a joke in the class. And then all of his friends laughed, and I felt like terrible about myself. Well, but then I graduated and realized I don't completely like men either. So I'm good.
Right. So, my sexuality it didn't develop like how all the other girls was. And then I just didn't like presenting myself in that way. But I had my shaming moment. It was like the first of many, but I remember that. And I remember being so mad. You know what I did?
What?
So back then they had mixtapes. You know what mixtapes are?
Yes, I do. Did you make a diss track?
Yes, I did.
A diss track.
I still remember the hook. You want to hear the hook?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so my sister, she pecked at the keyboard. So my dad, he bought us all type of like instruments. So I played the saxophone for 20 years.
Oh, I love that.
And I still can pick it up and toot my little horn or whatever. He had us playing piano and he had us singing. So all of us sang, all of us played piano, and all of us had different instruments. So my sister had the keyboard, and it was like one of them nice keyboards that had all of the different, jingles on them and like the drum snare and all that, whatever. So here we go. You had to plug it into the cassette back in the day.
Right.
And the cassette player, and then it was like an aux cord that went into the piano. So I put the blank tape in there. I took one of my dad's like Sunday school preaching tapes and recorded over it.
Oh my God.
And I flipped it and wrote, "Save that drama for your mama."
Oh my God.
Right? So that was the name of the song.
It's kind of iconic.
So I put it in there, and the beat was like boom, 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 boom. It was a real just simple beat. And I remember the hook was, "Say that drama for your mama. I ain't down with the drama. You've been bringing me, right? So that was the hook, right? So I had my sister cussing because I wasn't gonna cuss. She said, "You had me cussing on the TV tape." I said, "I sure did because I wasn't gonna get a whooping." Right? I was the oldest. It was so funny. So I went ahead and made a couple copies. Stop playing with me. And dropped it and gave it to everybody and blasted in the senior hall with everybody. And I just came hard on the tape, the diss track. Listen. I couldn't even believe I made it. But I was like, yo, Mario, say that drama for your mama. I ain't down with the drama that you giving me, stressing me. I was just like going in, and it was so funny. But I just remember being so angry. Like, how dare you do me like this? I have been nice to you, and you didn't even know I liked you, and you just went in. And I thought that was just so funny.
No, that's brilliant.
I disseminated the tape like I was going platinum through the whole hallway. Petty. So everybody listened to it. They were like, "Oh, Mario, she got you." But I just kind of walked away after that, like don't play that. We don't play that over here.
Listen, I would too. You know, something we say in the WoW Youth Poetry Collective is never piss off a poet because you will get wrote up.
You get lit
up. I've heard some amazing, we call them poison pen poems. I've heard some deadly
I got some
poison pen poems. And I'm like, oh man. I think the best one was I forget what year it is, but I remember the poem. It was a girl that was on the slam team with this guy.
Nice.
And I guess she had a crush on him, but he let her on. And she wrote a poem called Just Friends and did it the night of the All City Poetry Slam, the competition we hold to make the slam team. Well, she did it with him in the audience. And everybody in the audience looked around like, yo, this you? This you? She talking about like, you?
Come out.
And the girl that he was dating was sitting next to him too. And I'm like, oh man. You got lit up. Ooh. She won the whole thing, by the way, with that poem. Nice. But good Lord.
Because, invoking those emotions also invokes that memory, right?
It does.
And when you said that, it invoked that memory. Rejection does something for a young lady.
Oh, yeah.
It can either turn you or it can either build that confidence to the point where you're like, I'm going to be the baddest out here. And I told myself that. I said, I'm going to be the baddest out here. And I didn't have these babies. I'm going to get the stomach off, though. No, you better stop playing. I got my 40th coming, and I said, I'm going to rededicate my time to myself. I give all my time to everybody else.
I love that.
Right? But in the next 6 months, I'm going to go through a transformation. After Amir, he was my COVID baby. I remember my C-section. I remember like all of the trauma of like trying to deal with that.
Right.
But I said, I'm running behind everybody else, taking care of everybody else. I'm going to get this weight off.
Right.
So, you have to have little goals for yourself as you grow up. What are your goals right now?
What are my goals right now? Let's see. I'm 24 right now. Oh man, that's a really good question.
Right.
I want to get my own apartment.
Nice.
I want my own apartment.
Okay. So, you know what they're running about right now.
Yeah, I do. They're really expensive. I'm kind of watching the housing market as well because if it crashes, then it's like, okay, maybe we can
get you a little house.
Maybe I can get a house and see what that looks like.
Right.
But I want that. This is going to be really arbitrary. I want to learn to braid my own hair.
Come on.
Like here are the styles I can do. I can do these. I can do like spring twists.
I love them.
I can do big Marley twists.
Okay.
I can do soft locks. I can do butterfly locks.
Okay.
I can cornrow my own hair.
Okay.
Can't do it with extensions yet.
Okay.
But I want to learn to braid my own hair because growing up, I didn't really get to wear braids growing up. I don't know why. I actually don't know why I wasn't allowed to wear like braids with extensions growing up. My dad would say like, okay, it might make you look too grown. And in my mind, I'm thinking, okay,
that's what all the girls was. That's what all the girls was wearing back in the day,
right?
And it was a little grown, you know what I mean, like the box braids, and we call them dookie braids.
Yes, that I'm aware of. But see, whenever I get into those conversations about like, oh, you look grown, it's like you're an adult. That's a child. Let's start. Hold on, time. Let's start there. That's weird. You shouldn't be looking at a child that way. Like I remember the other thing too is I couldn't wear
fear. Fear makes our daddies do that. Because my dad didn't let me wear red lipstick. Because look how I look with the red lipstick. I'm just saying.
And red lipstick. Oh my God.
My daddy, he's Kojic. So he grew up Church of God in Christ. So
my dad's side of the family's Baptist, so I do understand.
Right.
Also Kojic, yeah.
Right. So like the red lipstick and like the red
nail
shoes,
polish,
the red nail polish,
anything red.
Yeah, like no, don't even come up in the church with that on.
Yeah,
but I always push the limit. Because I just think it's stupid.
I think it's stupid. I absolutely do. For me, it's okay. Why do I need to worry about a grown man looking at me in some kind of... Why is that my responsibility?
Yeah, well, my mother used to say the same thing. And when you get your man, you understand it, right? There's a certain sense of accountability, but we don't teach that no more as women. We don't appreciate each other's boundaries. I see a lot of these trends on TikTok and Instagram about prepping your man when he goes out the door. Like, your man should understand the assignment. If he's for you, he's for you. You shouldn't have to prep him, talk to him about not looking at a woman, how you hug a woman. Listen, I'm not doing all of that. I have two. Like I told you, I had 101 things on my mind.
Right.
That's not one of them. But if I gotta prep you and try to teach you on how to conduct yourself, you're not the one for me.
I don't. Yeah. See, I don't have to have those conversations with my boyfriend. We just celebrated our 4-year anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
But, thank you. But we have these conversations and I'm like, look, I trust you. We trust each other. It's other people. It's like, I can't control what other people do. I can just trust that you know what to do. And that's good. And that's it.
But my mama, she used to say that. She'd say, I was always demonized for my big boobies. So I protest sometimes. I have my boobies out.
I love that.
Yeah, but I protest in that way because I was like really demonized. Like, you're not good enough to hold this in a church, or you need to button up.
How was that your fault though? None of that's your fault.
I've always been top heavy. We can thank Dorothy Jean for that. My great grandmother, because she gave it to everybody, all the women in the family. But I'm learning to love myself.
Yeah.
I wore that dress. That red dress wasn't really an executive dress at the gala.
That really circles back to this idea of shaming as well. I think a lot of times what I'm seeing in the younger generation is we're pushing back against what were norms for like my mom's cohort. Like, I remember growing up and some of the conversations that I'd have with my dad, I was always taller and he would tell me, you're going to present as older. So it would come. So there were a lot of things that I couldn't wear.
Right.
Because
me too.
They'd say it makes you look older.
You're fully figured even at 24. So I know. So I have.
But in middle school, I was like really skinny. Like, I was
skinny,
a twig.
But let me tell you,
puberty smacked me like a truck.
That's how it is. And they always thought I was the teacher around school. So my daddy was like, pigtails till you're 13. I really literally wore pigtails, Moses. Goodness. I wore pigtails. I had those big Belozzo socks, like with the lace around them, and the Mary Janes. Like, they were not playing with me. And I really advocated, like, I'm being picked on. Like, I'm already got to wear a skirt everywhere I go because we were Pentecostal.
Oh, yeah.
I was balling. I was breaking ankles in a skirt. Stop playing with me. Ask anybody.
That. I
was breaking ankles, like back and hitting it. But at the end of the day, it's like I'm trying to be more careful with my daughter on not projecting some of those fearful things, but also being watchful. Yeah. Because my daughter is maturing for her age. Yeah. And she looks 12, but she's only 9. Right.
Right.
So I think as parents, when you start going through what's that journey, you'll start understanding why your daddy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Thank God you got like a boyfriend that covers you and protects you and loves you and supports you.
I kind of see some of that like with my nieces from my sister, because I'm the youngest. Right. I'm the youngest of 3 siblings. I'm the baby. Mm-hmm. My sister's the middle child. Mm-hmm. She has 2 daughters, 1 son. I have 2 nieces and nephew. My oldest niece just went to like her first dance and we were talking about makeup. And I remember when I go over there, because I'm the cool auntie. Every time I go over, it's, oh my God, Auntie Naya's here. Yeah, so I'd bring my makeup and my brushes and I'd let them do my makeup, or I might even like let them do a little bit. And I see the way that my sister handles these conversations, and we're really not about to, it's like, look, it's none of this is your fault. And I think that's something that I'm seeing the younger generation deal with as well. It's like, I'm not going to apologize for the way that I look, but I should not have to worry about protecting myself and also protecting yourself. Like, one thing I remember hearing, because church girls here, we can have this conversation. Right. I remember hearing the conversations about like, well, you need to make sure that the men don't stumble. And I'm like, why do I need to deal with that? That's not my problem.
One of my pet peeves.
I hate
like, they are not held to the same accountability.
No, they're not.
You can call feminism is not for the church or whatever, but they're not held to the same standards. And I'm going to keep whistleblowing on that and having those conversations. I'm looking right at y'all, listening to me. I know we have to have accountability on both accords. If you see a true queen, I'm not talking about somebody that's selling, you know what, on the internet, she out there and she like, you can get it. That we're not on that same level. There are different women for different categories and the way they want to present themselves. Yeah. But it's all our choice. God gave free reign and free will.
You chose to be weird about it.
Right. That's what it is. You chose to be, I'm taking that. That was cute. You chose to be weird about it. So I think too, it's like also talking to our young men. When you see a young lady, right?
It just eye contact. Come on. Now, granted, the autism makes eye contact very difficult. Right. But I've had to learn a few tricks to force eye contact. Like now, I'm not looking you in the eye. I'm looking at your eyelashes.
Oh, nice.
See? Little trick. And everybody out there, you struggle with eye contact, just count their eyelashes.
Yeah, nice.
Only the top ones, though. Don't do the weird third eye thing. Yeah. I learned that one, and then I've watched some videos back. It just makes you look stupid, so don't do that. But anyways, we can teach young men, if you see a woman wearing a low-cut top, don't look here. It's not that difficult. And also, I can assure you, they're not going to go anywhere. They're going to be here. They were here when I woke up. They were here this afternoon. They're here when I go to bed. Don't worry about it.
They're here when I die.
I got this on lock.
I got them on lock.
It's okay.
I love that.
But we really don't hold them
I think we need a booby shirt that says they're here. Like, they're not going anywhere. They're here.
Okay?
Like,
Malone.
Get over it. And I'm learning to love myself. I'm learning to also, a lot of times I got picked about with my nose growing up.
Your nose?
Because I have a Seminole nose. So like when I say we deep Native American.
Oh, I see.
Real, both family members, like the res is just, that's just what we do. We go to the res.
Right.
Know? But Seminole in nature, and I have my grandfather's nose, who was Seminole and German, and he has my nose. So a lot of people, again, they're going to find things to pick on you, talk to you about my gap. I was called Daddy Long Legs growing up.
Oh my god!
Because I was really skinny. I looked like Snoop Dogg's daughter. No lie. I had like the silky hair that went into the ponytail.
Okay. Snoop Dogg's daughter.
I swear to God, I have to find a picture. Crying. I have to find a picture. I got to find it, Moses. You guys got to post it. But I look like Snoop's daughter. You know, Snoop used to have the belows. Yeah. Okay, yeah. I have a picture like that with the belows, and it went straight down with the silky braids. Lord. Yes. And I was skinny. I had like no frame. And I remember meeting my kid's father, and he was, at the time, he was running the streets, and not, he wasn't, a good boy. And so he never paid attention to me growing up, which was fine because, I wasn't into bad boys. And it's crazy. When he saw me again in the club, he was like, God damn, like, what happened? I'm like, oh, we bloom too. Like, we get hips, we get booty.
Yeah.
And I was like at my playing weight when I was playing ball, women's basketball. So I had like real thick thighs and they were all chiseled, and my mom, she was super Christian. So we went to bed and play text. Like, we did not sleep without a bra. So, I'm perky. I'm vibrant. I'm taking my vitamins. I look like a phoenix walking around. You know what I'm saying?
I love that.
But I didn't know my value. Right? Because I was told A, B, C, and D growing up. Right. That shaming is like real. It really will affect your mind.
Like, I remember some of the stuff that stuck with me for a long time. I'm still having to undo this. this idea of any attention you get is your fault because of the way you look. And at 24, I'm like, look, I'm 6 feet. I got long legs.
Right.
I'm well aware I have
Right.
wide hips.
Yes.
They came in. I just look like this. Okay.
Right.
It's not.
But why are we apologizing?
Exactly.
And that,
why
and
do I
that
need to
goes
apologize?
that goes back to the body comparing too. Like
Yeah.
when we body shame, we also body compare. And I think we have a lot of body what we call body dysmorphia that's happening. And like even with the plastic surgery, like I'm really not gonna lie, like my internal unhealed little girl that tries to come out from time to time, that I try to talk to her and deal with her and be like, you gonna be okay with this extra weight you got on? I'll be like, I could do a BBL, but then I have my friends.
God, the BBL trend.
Listen, I have my friends. We struggle with that because everyone is doing it.
Yeah.
And it's just so easy to get the weight off, get you a little liposuction.
It's easy to fix things now.
Yeah, it's easy to die too, though.
Yeah, it's easy to go down the rabbit hole like, oh, I fixed this one thing. Well, maybe this is wrong. Maybe this is wrong. You go down the rabbit hole of finding all these flaws. You see it with celebrities a lot of the time.
Yeah, they're struggling with that.
Yeah. But I definitely do see in the younger generation, we're seeing a lot more body dysmorphia.
Yeah.
And the BBL
with the plastic surgery.
The BBL trend has me howling though, because I love seeing the pages of people that go too far. So I'm like, that's terrifying to me.
But then they say that's body shaming when you say, well, what's too far when you have too much plastic? And they had a lot of coverage on that, on girls that did that. And a lot of that stemmed from that inner child. You have to have these norms. You got to have, you listen to Sir Macaulay. I like big butts and I cannot lie. And so when that trend started catching on, especially those individuals like the Kardashians who are glorified for a lot of their plastic surgery, they're people are like, just leave it alone. Let people do them. Okay. But what are we teaching our children?
Right.
At the end of the day, like, are you okay? We're okay with your body looking different.
Yeah.
I explored that with Dove. Dove had a campaign about showing up in the skin that you're in.
I remember that.
Ooh, and they have billboards of like all the different frames. So then you started seeing like Fenty. Like I like that about Rihanna's lingerie, that she makes it for
everybody.
Yitty.
Yeah. Yitty's another one.
Right.
Where it makes it for everybody.
Right.
Honestly, I've leaned more towards them, and that's why I kind of stopped looking at Victoria's Secret. Oh. I remember watching one of their runways and they had their first plus size model, and I'm like, you look normal.
She's 12. She was 12 and they consider that plus size. So
that was wild to me.
Every time I went into Vicky's Secrets, I was told to go next door to Lane Bryant. So Lane Bryant is their subsidiary. And so that was like protecting their brand. They did not want real luscious fertility goddess looking women.
No, they didn't want the thick
BBWs.
Ladies.
No. They didn't want the thick ladies in their lingerie that they often wanted to say.
No, that makes no sense to me.
So that's why they were like, go by Lane Bryant. They have your bra size and your panty size, But I think too, just taking a moment, taking a step back and unplugging.
Yeah.
It's a lot of waves and a lot of energy you take in.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do to cleanse yourself as a young person?
What do I do to cleanse myself? I will go through and I kind of do a cleanse of what's on my For You page.
Nice.
Because a lot of times what you see on your TikTok, you curate your own For You page. Like the stuff you like, the algorithm.
The AI and all that algorithm.
The algorithm kicks in and is like, oh, okay, you might like this then. I will go through and go, okay, let me start saying I don't like some of these videos and get more of these things. I start curating what it is that I wake up to, because you can control that.
Yeah.
We like to say that, okay, social media, you can't control anything to a certain extent.
To a certain extent.
That is true. Mm-hmm. However, like you said, we have free will.
It's measuring when and how long you stay on a page when you scroll. So it knows, it will show you more in your feed if you're staying on that one page. So I teach my AI to see in a different eye almost every week, depending on what I want to learn, right?
Yeah.
If I say it's a book that's trending, I'll teach it to trend on that, because I needed to learn many different things, because that's what it was before I had the internet, right? We're the generation of the personal computer. Like we got our first personal computer in 1990. and Apple and IBM supplied all of the, and we were typing in DOS.
Yeah.
So like I'm the generation that remembers that. Like I remember what it meant to be on the phone with the long cord wrapped around your finger and you're flirting and talking. And
we're the cohort of Instagram. Like we saw the rise of Instagram and TikTok.
Y'all were after MySpace, because I think we had MySpace.
No, we had MySpace for like a little bit. We had like the dying end of MySpace.
Yeah, you jumped on Facebook hecka fast.
Yeah, we went to Facebook, and then from Facebook to Twitter, and then from Twitter, then Instagram, and that was the big thing. But yeah, I will go through and curate what it is that I want to see. Like for instance, I'm on gym TikTok.
Okay.
Because I've been going back to the gym. I've been being pretty consistent because I have a few goals that I want to meet.
Nice.
But I always look to see people that have my body type or that look like me. Like, okay, let me see somebody that looks like me doing this.
Gotcha.
Because I also have to recognize when it comes to weight gain, it's going to distribute differently for different bodies.
Right.
Like when I gain and lose.
You're endomorph. I'll tell you that right now. That's what I am. So we are the village of the broad shoulder broads and the big back Bettys. So we got to watch it because we're top heavy, and we're also got the hippie forms and the big legs.
I was top heavy for a long time. I was actually very
it came out of nowhere though.
The hips came first. Well, then I started taking birth control.
Oh yeah,
because I had like a really bad period, and I said I don't want to deal with this anymore.
Right.
I'm gonna get on birth control, but because it's hormonal,
hormones would do it to you.
I'm pretty sure that's why this happened.
Yeah.
But I'm not mad at it.
Yeah. I had to stop taking B1s because I was like, what is going on up here? But yeah, that cardio, girlfriend, and then like the whole eating a lot of heavy greens and drinking your water. It'll slim down. Your belly slim down, leaving that sugar alone. Because them carbs, man, it's hard to burn.
See, for me, it's like I just want my metabolism to be at a place where I can put all that, like I can eat all that and then be like, oh, okay, we're fine. Yeah. That's just what I want.
I love it, but that's not our reality.
It's not.
The genetics, the thicky thick girls.
It's okay. It is okay. I'm just glad that everything gains and goes away evenly. I distribute evenly.
Yeah. And do you have a little one yet?
No, okay. I don't want one right now.
Okay, good job.
And I'm really glad for that because a lot of my other friends have kids and like married. And I'm like, I'm happy for you.
Right.
I want to finish college. I want my degree. I want to have lived on my own for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to start even thinking about kids until I'm in my 30s. And even then, it's like seeing how the world is and how our country is. Like, I don't even know if I want to bring somebody into this mess because this is a nightmare.
Hearing more and more young women say that, and it is a struggle at times.
It's scary because I'm thinking, okay, I have a kid, right? Then there's the whole. Knowing me, I probably would have the first at a hospital just so I can make sure, all right, nothing's wrong. You don't need surgery. You're fine.
Right.
And then I would start thinking about, I have to put you in school. Do I want to put you in public school knowing that somebody could just walk in and light it up? I don't want to deal with that. That is actually terrifying to me. And then I also have to think, no matter who I have a kid with, be it my boyfriend right now, or if it's someone later down the line, they're going to be Black. Do I want to bring a Black child into this country knowing what I have to deal with?
Cleveland Elementary.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know that very first school shooting.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't Columbine.
No.
It was Cleveland Elementary.
But then the one that got like televised,
California,
was Columbine.
And Michael Jackson came down. He was so touched about the systemic racism that was projected through that shooter and targeting a predominantly all Southeast Asian elementary.
Yeah. And
killed many, many children. I never will ever forget that. We'll never forget Cleveland and that year. It was very devastating. But it brings us to the end of our podcast. Listen, we can sit up here and talk
pretty much
all night. But I want people, Miniya Joy, I want people to know where they can follow you and where they can hear We Flow Radio. Why, again, tell them why it's important to tune in.
Well, let's get the logistics out the way. We are on Instagram at We Flow Radio 209. Our icon is kind of this tan background with a blue microphone on it, which is great. We are just now starting to get back like online and get into the swing of things, but our goal is to really be digital news because, unfortunately print is kind of dying out, and a lot of our cohort gets our news online. And a lot of what we do is going out to these events and giving you the perspective, giving you the youth perspective. Like, especially when it comes to school board meetings, we want to talk about how this is going to affect you. Because I don't think it's that we don't want to be involved. It is that space is not made for us. And also it's that no one's taking the time to explain it to us. So, like, for instance, why it's important to vote, how to even register to vote, how to pre-register, because a lot of people don't realize you can pre-register at 16 and 17. Unfortunately, you can't use it till like 18 and then until the actual presidential election. So for all the 16, 17-year-olds watching, you can pre-register. You can't do anything with it now. You got to wait. For
and this election is very important. We have a couple of wars that are brewing.
Oh my Lord.
We at local, state, and I know that you hear that every time, but we have to get competent people in there with solution-focused ideas. It's not just that you're a politician, and also you are open to hearing and accepting each and every one of us in this city. And I was very open about who I personally want to endorse this time around. I personally am endorsing Kamala Harris. I'm personally endorsing Jason Lee. I'm personally endorsing Mario Enriquez, because these are the individuals I've seen who have put the pen to the paper and delivered change. I need change for you. I don't want you to be scared to bring in a child because we can't figure out the gun problem in the United States.
No, we cannot. Like, we really cannot.
And that's serious. When you said that, that really touched me. Right? Like, that's something for you. Are the generation, along with mine, who lived through school shootings. And my child normalizes all the time. Like, Mommy, we got on the ground today and we waited for them to close the door. They actually had a lockdown because there was someone that was walking around with a gun.
No, that's wild. They really did. We really did just become desensitized to it. Like, I think I remember the second biggest one. I remember Sandy Hook. I mean, I was a kid when that happened.
But Columbine happened before Sandy Hook.
Columbine happened before Sandy Hook, but for our cohort, it was Parkland, the one up in Florida. And then was also the Pulse nightclub shooting. Oh my gosh. I remember the walkouts. I remember the increase of the lockdown drills. I still remember where I was supposed to hide. I'm like, oh, okay, well, here we are.
And there's really no hiding when you have somebody that comes through with that amount of rifle and military gear and ammo, and they are chopping. When I say chop, they're chopping, not to be insensitive, but I really need to paint a picture of the urgency that we need to understand about changing our generational perspective and giving them a future, chopping our babies down. So I tell people that I'm going to consistently be an advocate, right, for every right that we're able to live underneath Creator's Son. And I appreciate you for being here, Miniya Joy.
Thank you for
you
having
have
me.
Definitely been a joy. I see the fruits of your mother in you and also the fruits of your father. I'm so glad that you have them both in your life and they were able to raise, but also you inquire and give your mind the fruit that it needs for you to flourish. And so I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Like I said, We Flow Radio, we're on Instagram. And if there's anything that I'd leave you guys with, it's just that we are out here. We are talking. Sometimes we're yelling. Y'all just need to listen and make space to actively listen. And the other thing is you always have people saying, well, we need people to talk to our youth. There is a difference between talking to somebody and talking at somebody. Talking at somebody is, this is what you're doing wrong and you're terrible and you're just coming down on them nonstop. Talking to someone is, all right, let's actually have a dialogue. Let's have a conversation.
Ashe, and those are the last words. Thank you for tuning in. Join us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm Rubber Ray. Peace.